Good morning. I'm here with Jean Vendetti at her home to talk about festival memories. We've been trying to put some of this together in the last few months or so, and Jean was good enough to respond to it and be willing to share with us some of the memories as we head towards Memorial Day weekend and summer, unofficial beginning of summer, and the festivities that start. We look to the planning of our own parish festival, not having made a final decision on that yet, but much planning has gone into it. But putting that aside, we're going to just talk about some of the wonderful memories Jean has and others have about our festival, and I'm going to turn the camera around to let her begin talking to us about it. So let me just do this, and we're getting an audience of people already. So here's her statue of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and here goes Jean. So Jean, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being willing to take this opportunity to talk about festival memories. And I suppose one of the things I would ask you right offhand, as I mentioned earlier, is what some of your earliest memories of the festival, because you grew up in this area, and as a young person, a child, you would remember. So some of your earliest memories and the special part you played as a child in that too. So why don't you go ahead and tell us some of that?
Okay, my first memory was I was a little girl, and we would go to the Mass. And of course, they would have the players in the Mass. Rose Guerrio was the organist. Mr. Palillo was the soloist. Well, the Pavlino family was very prominent in getting the Russo band from Cleveland, and they came from Cleveland. My dad, Albert D'Angelo, was a music teacher too, and he played with them. Well, Mr. Russo brought the Gran Signora.
The song that we use
from Italy. And so he wrote the parts, and then the band would play. Well, my first memories of the Mass are like this. They would bring Our Lady to the door, to the steps, and the doors would open, and it was like a moment of silence. Then the trumpets would go, da 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 da, and they'd start grand sing, and everybody would sing. And there were people everywhere. So anyway, then of course everybody scurried to the procession to get their places to start up. Well, I remember my grandmother, they would all march in black dresses with their hats and no shoes. And you know, the roads were bad, brick roads, but anyway, that's what they would do. But going back to the Mass, I want to mention one thing. The organist, the first organist, was from Grazio Di Giacomo, who brought my grandparents over from Italy. Okay, then after him was Rose Di Giacomo Guerrio. Then after her was Mary Bernardo, and they were all related. And then Mary Bernardo brought Kim in. So it's like all the way down the generations.
And this would be Rosemary's mother, Mary Bernardo?
Yes.
And that's Rosemary's
right
mother.
Up, so that's right up to date. So anyway, okay, so the procession would go, and I mean, it was miles of people. All the altar boys, all the little girls in white dresses, and just beautiful.
How old would you be at that time? Would you remember?
I was thinking I was
5 or 6,
4,
maybe?
5, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen videos with all the large numbers of people that would be part of that procession.
You're right. And those videos I got from Mr. Paulino. There was old, I came across them, and I gave them to Brooke. So anyway. Okay,
that's right. Brooke has it. Somebody else has borrowed them from Brooke, I think, even to put them on Facebook.
Right, yeah. So anyway, they would walk all the way through East Ashtabula, up the hill, East 6th, all the way. Then the second spot was the Angels. So what happened was the May family, Mike May family, did the Angels. And so the first one that I ever remember, she was a Santilli girl, the last name, and she died of appendix.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, then somehow I was asked, because they wanted a little,
Yeah.
And so I'd say I was about 10 maybe, but I'm not sure.
Even 10 might be a little bit. Well, maybe. Yeah.
Or
From what
12,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
But you wouldn't want a child to be too old just for the weight of the child
Yeah.
on the wires, because they would hook up those wires at somebody's home. Was it from some?
No, there was the utility poles, and the wires would go up over the utility poles
Oh wow.
and to the cable, and the men would hold the cable. Johnny May, Mr. Canzanetta, Vito Benevolenta, my Uncle Francis Dramus, my Uncle Harry was standing guard while I was up there, my father, and all of them. And so my mother made me the gown, the angel gown, the thing, the crown. And so they, no shoes, they would hoist me up, and I don't know how I got up there, but they hoisted me up and I was like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
With like a wire or a belt
It was
wrapped
like
around
a
your
belt
waist and then hooked up
connected
to
to
the
the
cable. Phew.
yeah. And so anyway, so I would get up there and I would sing, and I don't know what the song was Maria, Maria, and as you did the rose petals.
Dropping the rose feather.
And of course the band, and Father, there was people everywhere because they'd all gather.
Just to watch the
And
children
so
come down
I'm
as the
doing
angels.
like this, with and the best part of it is the cable would sway. So you're singing and you're swaying a little bit. Anyway, then after I was finished, the band would start with the Gran Signora, and then they would march. It was a magical, just magical moment.
What? How long do you think they were using the children for angels?
Well, after me was Isabel Barquette Jungola, I remember, and then I remember Rosemary Greeny Timoneer. I don't remember. I did a couple years. Then they would rotate, So I don't remember some of the girls after that.
You think 5, 6 years,
Yeah.
10 years?
There
or?
was a couple of incidents, and they stopped doing it.
Well, I would imagine the
Yeah.
danger or something like that.
Yeah.
I would imagine even the city would eventually say it's too dangerous to do so.
And
God
then-
bless you for doing that on, and
yeah,
your
well,
parents
it
willing you to
It was
let
an
you.
honor to do that. Of course, I was, my father was pacing. But anyway, yeah, it was wonderful. So anyway, going back to, then we'd go back to the church, the march back to the church, long walks. And then they'd say the more prayers at the church. And it grew and grew. This was the old church. But,
We're on 16th Street, is that right?
yeah.
Corner 16th in Columbus.
Yeah. And then I want to go into the food a little bit, because it's real comical when we think about it. Well, every night was a dinner. And so, the places would be full of people preparing. So my mother and them...
Let me ask you, the festival, was it held like we are accustomed to it on the grounds around Mount Carmel Church and the school and
Yeah.
the community center? Was it being held on that property in those days, or was it held
No.
near the church?
It was held at the old ballpark off of Columbus Avenue, where the Harbor High School was built.
Oh, okay.
All
That
the
area.
ballpark
Oh,
field at that time.
okay.
Yeah.
In that area where the old Harbor High School was.
I don't remember a lot about that because I don't think I was allowed to go at night.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where they had
They would
it.
use those grounds for the festival, though.
Yeah. And then of course they started moving it up to the new site. But so the ladies, there was no place to cook, so in the beginning they would make their sauce and bring their sauce, put it all together, and serve the dinner. I know Mrs. Bernardo always had the Russo band, and they would provide food.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a dinner every single night. So we started cooking at the Sons of Italy in the basement
On Columbus Avenue?
on Columbus Avenue. The pasta and beans and like that. I have to tell you a funny story because we laugh to this day. Well, they were making the pasta beans in the basement, and the pans were huge. So there was my mother, and I've got a whole list of the twins, the Pennas, were in charge of everything, and you didn't go in the kitchen. Mrs. Orsuto, Jerry Noder, Linda and Corvia, and Ned. They had the guys with the pans. Nick Martello, Maddie Vetrano, all of those guys would all be down there. So anyway, Emma couldn't stir the pasta because the pan was too big and she was too small. So the ladies put her on the chair, and two of the ladies were holding her by the butt while she stirred that. And then they take all of their the pans and they put them in Benny Brinkis's truck to bring them over to the lodge, or wherever, to the school, wherever they were using it.
Where they'd have the food served.
Yeah,
huh?
but I've got a list of the ladies that helped, and I don't want to leave anybody. Twin DiGiacomo, Mrs. Penna, Julia Nappi, Betty Rossetti, Angeline Pouchel.
They're all Ashtabula names, aren't they? Yeah.
Vetrano, Otto Rossetti, Kazi Ray, and those guys. No one did anything the week of the feast because they were all dedicated to the feast that week.
So it would take a lot of people, a lot of volunteers to put that all
yeah.
together, and you just saw the outpouring of the people.
And I wasn't even allowed in the kitchen. They had their own group. I was the gopher. Go to Saletti's and get 10 pounds of hamburger. Put it on the bill. Okay. And I'd take all the kids and we'd run to Saletti's. So it was a lot of fun.
So you continue to do the festival all through your young adulthood, and then as a young woman, and continue to work with it. And you're doing the at this time it's the lemonade stand. Is that correct? You're working the lemonade stand.
The lemonade stand was started, I think, by Mary Bernado in the choir, and then we've had Pam Roskovic was chairman, and then we went into it when she moved. So. It's always been a real good money maker, and that's how it started. And I want to touch on the bingo. This is another funny. The bingo in the beginning was in the bus barns. So Vince Orlando was like the chairman. He would call the numbers, and my mother was the chairman. So Vince he'd get on the mic and he'd go, "Come and play bingo. Only a nickel," and everybody go to the bus stand. Well, the bus garage. So, and it was funny because it would be packed.
And so they would have bingo during the festival then too.
Every night.
Oh, nice.
And a Pat Capuano and them. Well, the ladies, there was that bunch that always went, and so they say, "Save my place. I'm gonna go get a sandwich." And you had to save their place because they want anybody else to sit there. So so Kim remembers that because she always was around and helped. So then it moved into the community, or not the community, but the gym. And every night was packed with the bingo. We'd bring coffee and cookies, and it was just a really, really fun thing.
Bingo was played quite a bit back in those days, up until
it was a nickel a card.
Well, when I was first ordained, there was a lot of bingos in a lot of the parishes, and
all the ladies. There was a whole group. They all got cars. They went to bingo. It was really. I wanted to touch on that because we still laugh to this day, and we sing the song for Vince.
That's great. Any other food memories, or what you call? Were there always rides with the festival too? Or was that probably a later edition, huh? Came a little bit later. Because there's probably more food and just maybe some games, I suppose, run by the parishioners.
A couple of years they stopped the rides. They became expensive.
Yeah, and it was difficult finding good ride people too. I didn't know. And then fireworks developed too eventually. That probably more recent years.
I remember when I was little, my mother would say, "Listen for the fireworks, because then we know we have to go." And I remember the boom booms coming. So I don't remember.
Kind of reminders that the festival's going on. We call that in some other festivals in years gone by. Jean, thank you very much. Anything else that you want to highlight or just share
Well,
with us?
really, I've got so many memories. I could go on for hours.
Well, we could pick
And-
this up at another time too, if you like. You
yeah, I
know,
wanted
give you a chance to
to
put some more things together.
talk about about more about the music, and it's been
Yeah.
a wonderful feast always. And people didn't have money, and yet they were all there in their suits and so proud. Then I could say another thing. The procession. First was Mr. Candela. Tony Candela was the chairman. Then after Tony Candela was Tom Del Prince. And of course Nancy Benedict was right with him,
Oh yes, I
and
remember
keeping
Nancy.
us in line. Then after that was Clemmy Marini and Judy
Right.
Sposito. And they still do it now. But you have to have an organizer. And of course it got bigger and bigger all the
That's
time.
Israel.
But it's been a wonderful. It's just been
124 years this year,
Yeah.
the 124th
Yeah.
festival, and then next year's 125 years. So I'm not sure what gem that is. It's, whether it's diamond or it's, but 125 is
And
one of those.
it's a huge project. The chairman, like Rosemary and my husband Nick Martello were chairman, Kazi Ray, Walt Harris, Rosemary Bernardo. I mean, it's a huge.
We even, I think, come January, back in January is when we began talking about making plans for this one, trying
Mary
to
Ann,
build on
yeah.
top of it. So it's been, and like I said, we have to still decide whether next week we'll make a final decision about whether
Yeah.
we're going to be underground or be alternate. I like using the term alternate. It's not so much virtual in the sense that, to some degree, it'll be virtual, but an alternate plan with maybe not all the rides and fireworks and everything, but the dinner, the raffle, the procession, the mass, the novena,
Yeah,
and those things.
that's
So,
what's important.
yeah, and that's what it's focused. That's what's on the Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and we'll kind of finish up with the image of her. And we ask her intercession for us as we plan for this year, and that all that we do, that we end up doing it safely. Jane, again, thank you very much for taking the time to do the interview. Continue to keep us in prayer as we make a decision on this, and I'll look forward to talking to you later.
Whatever you decide is fine, Father.
Thank you, Jean. Let me wrap this up. Okay, everyone. Our interview with Festival Memories with Jean Vendetti. And we have another one coming up later today, about 1:30 this afternoon. So if you're around your computer or tablet, you'll see us popping up at 1:30. We're talking to Florence Irochi. So
Oh, good.
God bless you all. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.